Hello and welcome back to the Building Business Resilience show. Gareth and Shane here again from Sanctuary Financial Planning, specialising in lifestyle financial planning for business owners. With all that's going on in the current climate, a number of people have been worried about how they're going to cope with health and fitness during the current lockdown with gyms, parks and other venues being closed. In today's video, we're going to talk to Trystan Bevan, strength and conditioning coach, speaker, author. He's over 20 years experience in the fitness industry, predominantly in professional sport. He's currently the co-founder and owner of tech startup for the fitness community, myfinishline.co.uk. He's just finished Darren Campbell's autobiography, Track Record, which is due out this year. Shane and Trystan go back a few years as friends, and we thought it'd be a great idea to invite him onto the show to discuss all things fitness whilst in lockdown. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
How are you doing, Trystan? Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for asking, guys.
So, Trystan, what's you seem to be busy at the moment. New ventures for you at the moment?
I've got a website on the go, like a tech startup website called myfinishline.co.uk. So I was lucky enough to meet a bona fide genius about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, by the name of Sahar Khan, who she used to work for Amazon. She has a real in-depth understanding of tech startups, and also with my sporting background, our interests aligned. So it's an online community for people who just have an interest in fitness. From my background in sport, in primarily professional sport, there's so much information out there that you can gather just by going on the internet, and sometimes you cannot see the forest from the trees. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to completely circumvent that and just go down the path of user-led programming. So for example, Shane or Gareth, if you guys had just recently completed a 10K or a marathon, and you just wanted to share and show people, well, this is how I achieved my own personal goal. There's nothing like that out there. There's only, this is how Mo Farah did it, and this is how Danny Cipriani did it. There's no real sort of real life examples out there. So that's what My Finish Line is about. It's basically people relaying and showing their own fitness journeys so that people can compare them.
And there's opportunities for people to learn how to do things, I think as well. I've been on there to do their own sessions, and you can download a session created by you.
That's right, yes. I mean, what I've managed to build up over the last 20 years or so is a general sort of quite a thick and deep bank of training sessions from working with rugby players and athletes. And I've kept them all on this laptop somewhere. And I've just, over the last 2 or 3 years or so, just went through and kept the ones that I like and discarded the ones I thought were poor. When it comes to sort of people needing advice on what kind of stuff do athletes do, or what kind of stuff do the general population do, they can just go through and filter sessions and workouts just in order to help them achieve their own goals. And that's as simple as that. There's no other sort of tricks behind it. And we've also, between Sarah and I, she is an Iron Man or Iron Lady, I think, I don't know what the term is, herself, having completed 2 of those. We just decided to write some blogs as well as far as information, just to give people ideas of where to find the right kind of information. Okay. As I said, no different to lifestyle planning or financial planning with you guys. Sometimes you literally cannot see the forest from the trees, and you need a trusted source to be able to tell you this is where you need to go. Yeah,
there's so much stuff out there at the moment, and and you see it all over social media. Everyone's now a fitness coach or a professional, but you've got to be careful. You've got years of experience and the background behind it. It's not. I don't think it's right that people should just be out there kind of giving it a go. Trying to coach everyone.
It's a highly unregulated industry. Nutrition and fitness. And the best way I can explain it is the people I've learned from the most, and the people whose opinions I would generally trust when it comes to nutrition, fitness, health, all this kind of stuff, they're not on social media. Being popular is not important to them. Being correct is important to them. Yeah. And sometimes I think it's a facade of the society that we live in now, where popularity seems to be more important than accuracy.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's led us down the path to where we are now. Who knows?
So I presume there's been a higher number of uptake or traffic on the site over the last few weeks with everyone stuck at home, and gradually increasing week on week as people stay at home more. Yes,
it has. I suppose there's no roadmap for what we're going through. I mean, COVID-19 has hit the entire world, hit the entire economy. We did not know what was happening 6 weeks ago, and we still don't know what's happening now. But we've looked at Google Analytics to see how the recent world events have responded to My Finish Line. And yes, there has been a significant uptake, because I presume people just want to have a look to see what kind of workouts they can do in their garden. And purely coincidentally, we decided between the two of us to actually formulate workouts that you could actually do in the house. The problem being, of course, is you only got to go on Instagram or Twitter now, and every third swipe or so has got someone in somebody's garden doing some kind of video on some kind of workout. So you're competing against literally hundreds of thousands of people doing the same thing. However, the traffic on our site seemingly has picked up, which is good, which is very good.
I suppose the difference is it's doing something that somebody has done a 2-hour course on online and potentially getting it wrong and injuring yourself, or doing it via somebody like yourself who has years of experience teaching you how to do it very, very slowly.
Yes, I mean, the best analogy I can think of is that despite having been married to her for 10 years, my wife just does not listen to a single word I say about fitness. She knows more than I do. She followed this plan that she found on the internet, where she just wanted to get fit in the back garden. So this plan ended up giving her something ridiculous, like 600 squats and 300 burpees in one session. Just a number that was plucked out of thin air, pretty much. So my wife could be Paula Radcliffe. She could be the world marathon record holder. But fitness is not that transferable. You don't all of a sudden go to do 1,000 press-ups in your back garden and not expect there to be some kind of poor response from that if you can't do 10 normally. So the danger, I think, at the moment is there's so much information there, but it's not contextualized in the slightest bit.
Yeah.
Like I know Shane, used to be a Gaelic footballer and, have a relatively decent fitness background. But if you were all of a sudden decided to take up weightlifting in your garden or in your outhouse or whatever you had, and just put 100 kilograms on the bar and thought, right, I'll try and do this as often as I can, you'd find yourself with a toe on something or other pretty soon, because you have to slowly build into these kind of things.
And people don't realize that. You're an author as well. How did that come about?
And that's something that's crept up on me. Prior to my interest in athletics, in track and field, I went to Aberystwyth University, of all places, to do a degree in Welsh literature, which, looking back now, is kind of a parallel universe to what I do now. So I've always had the ability to hold a pen or a typewriter or a keyboard and sort of just bash away. So a good friend of mine, Darren Campbell, who's one of Britain's most decorated ever sports people and a multi-Olympic medalist. Darren and I, our careers met actually through Jonah Lomu, believe it or not. When we joined Cardiff Blues, I was coaching Cardiff at the time, and Jonah and Darren became good friends. And then by pure proxy, I became a part of the three of them just because I was coaching Jonah. And Darren and I's careers, I've been friends with him for probably 15 years now. And as you can imagine, he's had many, many offers for people to do his autobiography. But we decided to write the book ourselves, completely opposite to what this was all about. It wasn't going to be his autobiography. But in time, obviously, whether he trusted me, whether he could see that I could write, or whether he just trusted that I would be a good outlet for his information, we've decided to write his autobiography. And it's called Track Record. It's on Amazon pre-order right now. It was due to be out on May the 21st. But with current world events, with everything on stop at the moment, we're just waiting for the next information to find out exactly when it's going to go out.
And this has nothing got to do with, because I only found out recently about you in the States and athletics and stuff like that. It wasn't a thing that you raced against Darren in the past, because I know you were.
Do you know what? I think we've obviously had this conversation. I think I might well have done once. I think it was in Barnet Copthall, probably about 1994.
So if this is going to go out on all aspects of social media, do you want to put your neck on the block now to say that you have beaten Darren Campbell? Or do you even want to say, in your collegiate days in America that you've beaten Michael Johnson or anything like that? Blow it up now.
I think if I had raced against Darren, I think he would have not only shaken everyone's hands, but obviously had a shower and come back onto the track by the time I would finish the race. So, no, that was 20 years and about 3.5 stone ago. So I'm not going to put my neck on the line for that.
Perfect. Will we go on to some questions now? If that's okay with you?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So we got some questions prepared, Trystan. We'll have a run through now. So everyone from professional athletes to non-athletic professionals are having to live a similar lifestyle at present. What sort of knock-on effect does that have for people, do you reckon?
One of the things I find interesting when it comes to athletic people in general is that they get their lives structured for them. So one of the parts of my job was to formulate a calendar where people would follow day to day. It would even be a macro calendar as far as you would say what they're doing in a month's time. And even sort of if you said, look, Tuesday the 17th of March, 4:00 in the afternoon, what am I doing? You'd be able to click on your calendar and find out what it was.
Yeah.
Obviously now that's all gone. So whether you're like the three of us or whether you're a professional sportsman now, you have to kind of formulate your own disciplines.
Yeah.
I've got a 4-year-old child in the house who obviously is not in school at the moment. And to me, that's a new form of life, which is I'm homeschooling this poor fella that's been homeschooled by me. I've got no reference point to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I suppose we're all in the same boat in that regard, you know, unless you're one of the heroic people who are key workers at the moment who finally are getting the respect that they deserve, both in the media and in society, because let's be honest, it's embarrassing that only now we're really celebrating the doctors and teachers and these people.
Absolutely.
But the rest of us, the only discipline that we really have to do now is to stay at home and to try and have some kind of normality in our lives. Now, when it comes to sort of health and well-being, I generally think that opens up some opportunities for us. I follow a lot of the ex-rugby players I used to get involved with coaching-wise on Twitter and on Instagram, and they're making up things in their back garden in the same way that you would, Gareth, or you would, Jane. There's almost a point of, right, we've got no sort of luxuries anymore. We have to kind of sort of knuckle down and figure out what we're doing on our own here. And that organic kind of feeling is a leveler for society, I think. It's interesting to see that we're all sort of in the same boat. And in a way, it shows how unprepared we all are.
Yeah. Did I notice that on the guys, the Australian Rugby League team that won the World Championship, they've almost been disbanded recently, and they're looking for jobs now on building sites and all that at the moment just to keep income coming in. It's crazy.
I mean, I religiously watch the news, and I should do a little bit less of that because I think it doesn't really do much for your mental health at the moment. And having lived in America, I look a lot at NBC, CNN, these outlets of news, and it looks as if the majority of people worldwide are living hand to mouth, both financially, health-wise, everything. And it sadly has taken something like this to happen for us to go, crikey, we should have been a little bit more future planned here. We should have had a slightly sort of wider outlook on where we are going. And to me personally, it's given me a little bit of an insight of what happens when I retire, which is at some point, I will no longer go to work. I'll have to fill in the hours, probably have to find an income from somewhere over and above sort of whatever sort of pension you'll be on. And you're thinking to yourself, right, okay, I've got nothing here except for the 9 till 7 or whatever it is, loads of time on my hands, family to look after, and what on earth do I do? It's a little bit of a dress rehearsal, I feel. Yeah.
Hindsight's a great thing though, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. And sorry, Gareth, go on.
No, I think it just seems to be like the world's a little bit resetting itself and making us kind of appreciate all the kind of freedom and all the things we had out there, like I say, everyone's having to improvise now.
Yes, and I'm sure you get the same as I do. I get emails every 3 or 4 minutes at the moment from every company that I've ever been part of or bought something online saying, this is our COVID-19 policy. And in the end, you start going, come on now, guys, that's completely disingenuous. There's no authenticity there because you can't tell me that Ryanair or Amazon have got a coronavirus policy out of nowhere because, let's be honest, it's 6 weeks too late anyway. And we're better off just admitting the fact that we don't really know what's going on at the moment. Yeah. So holding up the pretense of, look, we know exactly what we're doing as long as we've got a piece of paper that says this is our policy. I think that's problematic. It creates a sense to us that everything is okay when in fact it really isn't.
Okay, so we'll move on now. What are some of the positive effects of working out? I'm thinking about the word endorphins that everyone's always talking about. It's a bit of a key word.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, endorphins from my own sort of going back 20 years when I did all this kind of stuff. But I think the neurotransmitters in the brain that just make you feel good. It's been proven over years, loads of research and loads of anecdotal sort of evidence to show that there's a positive relationship between mental health and physical health, which is obviously, if you train and you feel good and you feel healthy, that has a positive carryover to your mental health. What also I feel is probably not as addressed so often is the same correlation occurs with negative physical health and negative mental health, which is if you just let yourself go a little bit too much, then the negative physical health has a knock-on effect on your mental health. So I think when it comes to addressing your question as far as positive effects of working out, it's just it's just a question of acknowledging what your health means to you. To some people, it might mean I want to live till I'm 100. Some people might mean I want to live till I'm 80 to be able to enjoy my retirement. Or some people just want to be able to do an Ironman. I mean, being fit and healthy is your own personal thing. The one thing I will say about exercise is it releases a stress hormone called cortisol. And it's a very poor metaphor in the current times, but the cortisol and its release in exercise is almost like a little vaccine where you give the body a little bit of pain so that it overcompensates and supercompensates and gives a lot more pleasure down the line. So that's what exercise does. You know, the 30 minutes of pain, of running, of the physical exertion that you go through has a huge knock-on effect further down the line. And sometimes it's hard to attribute one with the other. That's where sometimes it's hard to convince people to actually go on exercise because you don't know the benefits that you wouldn't have got from the exercise you don't do. Yeah. I don't know if there's really double negatives there, but it's essentially one of those things that if you go on the path of becoming physically active, you reap the benefits and you want to be more physically active. And I think the same thing happens negatively as well, where if you end up sitting on the sofa and just eating chocolate or eating junk food, I think that ends up being a little bit of a default setting for you as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself. As you know, I've torn my Achilles playing football, and I've been off exercising now into week 6, and it does impact on the mind as well. Totally get all of that. That, you know, I've always been active in the gym 4 or 5 times a week playing 5-a-side, and I've gone from being active every day to sedentary, and the chocolate is in the fridge. You just want to grab hold of, and it doesn't make you any happier. The more, as you say, the more I think you exercise, and the more you put your body through something, the more happier, and the more it feels to me, the more energy I actually have, the more energy I use. It's almost like a dynamo effect. So I can totally understand the concept of, you know, if you exercise, the body up here feels a lot better as well.
Yes, it does. And I mean, mental health has been in the news over the last few years more than it ever has done. And it's surprising when you read between the lines of all those things. It's surprising the prevalence of the link between mental and physical health. It's often, one is very, very often linked to the other. And it'll be interesting to see when we come out of this now. I mean, I read about, you know, the Wuhan province in China where this may have originated from, where they've been in lockdown for 3 or 4 months. And some of the people coming out there now and are saying about this is what the reality of their life is like. And it's the same thing. When you're locked in the house and you can't do much yourself, people are getting used to that as their own default setting. So people are getting used to doing nothing. People are getting used to not having energy. And that's a frightening thought. That is a frightening thought.
Yeah, it is interesting, you know, and like look in the bigger picture of this, you know, I kind of worry about how this must affect people, you know, single people sat in 1-bedroom flats and stuff like that, you know, and if we go into a full lockdown and we can't do exercise, as they've been talking about, you know, how that's going to affect it, you know, it's going to, the greater picture of mental health is huge, I think, you know, and that's probably another topic we could probably discuss for ages, but.
Yes, it is. I mean, I looked at what's in the news now is the fact that, you know, at the time of us speaking now, there's no full lockdown quite yet. And, you know, you see pictures of people in Richmond, you know, hundreds of people in the park, and you see people in London. And the knee-jerk reaction there is to judge them by saying, oh, crikey, can't you just stay at home? But then in Wales, where I live, you know, for the price of where you get a small 1-bedroom flat in London, you can get a garden, you can get somewhere for the little people around it. So I think it's you've got to be very, very sort of judged before you judge other people. Yeah, some people, as you say, some people haven't got those green spaces to go out and about. And if you haven't, I mean, the walls will close in on you very, very quickly unless some other kind of intervention takes place from that.
Yeah, I said, you know, you could be on a 12th floor of a block of flats with actually no balcony, and the only thing you got is a window to look out of the city, and that's it, you know. And yeah, like I say, the walls are closing.
Yeah, and then because of that, I'd feel a little bit of resentment of, well, I'm going to go for an hour's walk in Richmond Park, and then somebody takes a photograph of me with 99 people behind me, and all of a sudden I'm a bad guy. Yeah. So, but you know, we're all discussing sort of the scenery of the problem here, whereas the actual problem itself is the fact that, truth be told, we have to stay apart from each other, don't we? That's kind of
for the greater good.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay, so next up. So what if someone's never worked out before? Any tips?
Yes, you have to enjoy it. I'll bring my own personal experience into this, is that I hate cycling. So if someone was to come to me, if I was in a position where I needed to get active, and I was kind of shoehorned doing something I didn't enjoy, that would never be sort of repeatable, and it wouldn't be sustainable. I just wouldn't want to do it. So you've got to try and find something that at least you have an interest in, whether it might be a little bit of weightlifting, or even to the point, if you don't like exercise, maybe take a little bit more interest in what you put in your mouth. Along that continuum somewhere, from training hard to high intensity training to just actually looking after nutrition, along that continuum somewhere, there's going to be something that you enjoy doing. And the biggest tip I would give anybody is just find that one thing or 3 or 4 things that you actually enjoy doing, and just do them relatively often. Somebody contacted me from sport the other day and said, look, I can't train to the intensity that I normally can. So what's your advice? And I know this person quite well, and he does probably 4 or 5 training sessions of very, very high intensity every single week. And I said, well, just improve your mobility, improve your nutrition, improve your sleep habits, drink more water, go to bed earlier. All these things will then stay with you way past the COVID-19 crisis. That will end up being good habits that you might have sort of looked back on this period and thought, that's when I started doing this.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good. Some good tips there. Okay, moving on. So is staying healthy more important in the current troublesome climate than it is generally in normal times?
I would argue that it isn't, because you can't go online at the moment without seeing some post from somebody training in their back garden or ordering weights or I've done this on a walk bike, because people are just saying, this is what I'm doing when I'm at home. But being healthy is a continuum. In Britain at the moment, you have a struggling mental and physical health status where obesity, diabetes, work stresses, anxiety, these things predate COVID-19.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden say, right, okay, now that we've got to be stuck in our homes, we have to focus on our health. It's a little bit, to use the analogy with what you guys do, is like saying, oh, right, I've got no income coming in now. Right, I better start worrying about my income or about my expenditure. It should have been something that should have been in the background as a responsible adult for the last 15, 20 years, I suppose. Look, I hope that we'll be able to look back at this time and think, yes, it was a little bit of a reset button as far as our own attitudes, but staying healthy is something that's very, very important, whatever's going on in the world.
Yeah, perfect. So next up, what source of information are there for those that want to stay healthy while in lockdown?
That's one of the most important parts, is actually knowing exactly where to get your information from. Being a filter of information is what a guru is normally known for, but that predates the internet. Now with the internet, that, as I said earlier, the most popular people get all the noise at the moment. And if you look at, every 9 o'clock in the morning now, you've got Joe Wicks doing his with kids, which is great because it engages the children and things like that. But the popularity and the accuracy need to be hand in hand. Now, some of the sources that you can go online, especially when it comes to healthy living, would be the Health Foundation, which is health.org.uk. Which, if you go on their website, they've just got so many good links when it comes to diet, nutrition, healthy living, exercise. Same with the British Nutrition Foundation, which is nutrition.org.uk.
Yeah.
But ironically, when it comes to generally looking after yourself, and I sound like a stuck record here because it's probably the most celebrated thing at the moment, and so should it be, but it's the NHS. Yeah. Their website, they've got a Live Well section, which has got many strands shooting off it, just describing how to actually self-regulate your own health so that you don't end up being ill. And some of these things might seem very baseline, but it's no different to a marathon runner to someone who just wants to get a little bit thinner. The principles are exactly the same.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think that's it. It is making sure you get the right answers. Like I say, there's so much noise out there at the moment when it comes to kind of health and fitness, isn't there?
Yeah, yes, there is. I mean, you asked the question earlier about if you don't work out at all, where do you start? Well, I can tell you where you don't start is you don't start on sporting websites or high intensity training websites. Yeah. You start to somewhere which is appropriate to where your situation is as a person. If I was going to start juggling, for example, I wouldn't go straight to Cirque du Soleil. I'd go to, I'd just pick a couple of balls and start practicing. Now that's a poor metaphor, but it's kind of where it's easy to get sort of dazzled by the internet and what it produces, where sometimes you just need to find out the principles of what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's it. And whilst we can still go out and about, there's a lot to be said for a good brisk walk, for 15, 20 minutes. If you haven't done anything before, you don't need to be out there doing burpees and, kind of star jumps and all what you see kind of going on.
No, exactly. I mean, one of the things, what I was mentioning about the rugby player that contacted me the other day, it's so many things now. The silver linings, the opportunities that we have now, look, we all know what it's like. Time is the biggest issue we've got when it comes to staying healthy. So, for example, we wake up in the morning, we have breakfast. We normally rush a breakfast. We don't prepare it. We rush it in order to catch the train or go on the tube or go in the car to go to work. Work is 8 to 9 hours long, of which we rush in a little bit of food if we can. We don't drink any water during the day. We have to be constantly on, so we probably drink a lot of coffee to get the stimulation up. And then we come back home, and the reverse happens, which is, you've got to get to a point where maybe you spend a little bit of time with the kids. Food is never really prepared because you've got to rush through that. Before you know it, it's 7 o'clock at night, and the last thing you can do is train. Yeah. The one thing that you've got now, and it's imposed on us, is time. So you might as well teach yourself maybe just to cook, or for maybe 1 or 2 meals a week, or maybe 1 meal a day. Yeah. You invest a bit of time in, right? This is the content I'm going to put into my own food. It's easy now. There's no excuses where we can have an extra hour in bed easily. Go to bed half an hour earlier, wake up half an hour later. Has no impact whatsoever on our lives. I mean, we haven't got to dress in shirt or ties anymore. We haven't got to go into work. There's none of the problematic things that actually impact on our health is measured in time anymore. We've got all the time to be able to do what we want. So it's just about learning to instigate better habits. And this, however long this goes on for, if you look at it through the mind frame of this is an opportunity to actually learn something new because I've got the time to do it, it might be something that you carry on way past this crisis.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And that probably moves us on to the last question. So, does this period have any silver linings when it comes to health? And I think you just touched on it then, really.
Well, yeah, it did. Yeah.
Learning new skills. And I think it's just taking some of the benefits from what it is. One thing like I've kind of noticed is I'm not doing the heavy commute in the morning, stuck in traffic on the way to Cardiff from where I live in Caerphilly. And you feel so less stressed. It's interesting. Some of the things that probably we're all learning day by day in this.
No, for sure. It's a strange time. Obviously, we all appreciate that. And when it comes to actually looking after our health, the first temptation is always to say, let's go and exercise. And as you say, at the moment, if you work like yourselves, and if you're business people working in a city anywhere, you probably haven't got the time to create a meal. You certainly haven't got the time to go for half an hour walk anywhere. And fill your body full of caffeine, sugar, and dairy every single day. You could literally flip that on its head for the next 3 or 4 weeks, or however long this goes on for. Hopefully it's only that much, but who knows? And you might look back at this period and think, well, all I did was sleep a bit more. I got rid of sugar. I didn't sort of drink as much coffee, drank a lot more water, and I ate a little bit better. I didn't do a single bit of exercise, but my health has skyrocketed because of those 4 or 5 little changes I made.
It seems strange. I was expecting, I don't know, because we were putting this out to different people who may be, feeling stressed at this moment in time and maybe running big businesses, or maybe people that have heads of businesses, maybe that now their income was reduced. All of a sudden people have this expectation of, I need to exercise, so I need to go out and spend £2,000 on a watt bike and another £600 of weightlifting kit, and I need to buy all of the best protein shakes, and I need to buy the protein bars. Whereas with you saying now, you can go on the NHS website, it's free. You can download stuff that is free if you want to. The exercises you can do in the comfort of your own home can be done with things out your back garden, as the rugby guys are doing. You don't have to buy all of the expensive shakes and all that. You can just make your own healthy food yourself, which is probably going to cost a fraction of what you were spending in the past. So everything that you're almost saying, all the major points are, you know, this is an ideal opportunity to almost restart your healthy lifestyle, which is probably going to cost you next to nothing. It's just changing your ways of drinking more water, drinking less coffee, staying up not as late at night, maybe having an extra half an hour, but all of these things that will change somebody's life, not just for the next 6 to 10 weeks, but maybe for the next 6 to 10 years, will cost absolutely nothing.
And this is the thing, like you touched on it there, Shane, is that it needs to be sustainable. Where if you were a head of a company now, and you know you've got 1,000 worries to think about, you've got your employees to think about, you've got you know, the finances, the liquidity of the company, because you just don't know where the next sort of money, the next pound is coming from. But when you look past the effect on you as a person, yes, you might think, right, I'm going to get healthy now, so I'm going to go and buy an expensive bike, or I'm going to go and buy a treadmill. And now, when you actually go back to normal life, you're going to go back to the same routine you had prior, which is you're not going to have the time to do that. So the chances are that you're not going to use it because it's not a repeatable part of your daily life. Yeah. Whereas if you start making changes such as cooking your own food, making yourself sleep a lot better, drinking more water, then those might be the catalyst that promote you towards becoming, well, I'm going to do half an hour worth of cycling every night now because I can see myself getting a little bit more energetic. I can see myself getting thinner. So it's not a case of putting yourself through exercise in order to get healthy. Sometimes you get healthy, and from that health, you feel like you want to exercise.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that was great. Thanks, Trystan. Really enjoyed that, and I think it's quite insightful for the viewers of the video, and should answer some kind of burning questions which are right there.
Thank you.
Now, as much as everyone wanted to listen to you and tell them what websites to go on and stuff like that, 20 years in sport, right? I appreciate you don't want to be locked up and sued and all that, but come on, any good funny stories that you're allowed to share with the general public that won't land you in a lot of hot water?
I've thought about this, and I remember it was when I was coaching the Cardiff Blues, and we'd be on a flight, I think it was to Leinster, so it was over to Dublin. And you know what it's like, guys, you're on a flight, you're on a plane, even if the flight is only an hour and a half long, what you've got is you've got a critical mass of guys. As soon as you land, as soon as you go through customs and pick up your bags, you're just desperate to go to the toilet. So you had probably the best part of 35 guys all sort of looking to see where the nearest toilet was. So after I picked my bag up, I joined that line of guys looking for the men's room. And as soon as I got to the men's room, I just saw about 5 or 6 of the Cardiff Blues squad, not only in tears. Do you know when you're laughing so hard, you've lost it. You've completely lost it, where your abs are hurting. Yeah. And you're sat on the floor and you've completely lost control. So some of these guys were laughing so hard, a few of us went up to them and said, guys, you know, what's going on? And they'd lost it to the extent they couldn't relay the story to us. But what had happened was, this would have been about 2011, 2012 maybe. The first couple of guys that were going to the men's room, there was a short Japanese fella apparently who had confused, you know, the Dyson hand dryers that you've got. He thought that was one of these new urinals that you should use. So he used one of these, and you can imagine what happened as soon as he started to cover himself in his own water, let's say. And some of the players had walked in and seen this happen. Apparently they tried to stop him doing it, but the language barrier got in the way. But he had a shock of his life thinking that this Dyson hand dryer was actually not one of the new urinals that you should be using.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant. Superb.
That is brilliant.
Brilliant. Trystan, remind us again of the address of the website that we can get people to go and have a look on, register, and remind us again of the cost per month.
Right, it's myfinishline.co.uk. It's an online community for anyone who's interested in fitness. You can follow the plans of anybody else who's done any event. There's probably about 400 workouts on there, all of which are relatively decent. We've emphasized quality over quantity. There's probably 40 odd blogs, so you can actually read up on any information when it comes to fitness. And the cost is absolutely nothing. We've decided just to go down the road of not subscription, anything like that. We just want to get this information out there, and we just want to build as large a community as we possibly can.
Amazing.
Great.
So people can use your 20 years of experience and all of the training methods of people that have done Iron Men, Iron People, Iron Ladies, whatever it may be, and things like that, and all get it look at it from people that have been successful in training for that, all for nothing. So again, a cost of nothing for if taking fitness to the next level if they want to.
That's correct. Yeah, we just decided to be a community as opposed to a subscription.
Brilliant.
Perfect. So I hope you liked the video. And if you have any questions, please leave comments below or reach out to us via social media if you have any questions relating to what we discussed with Trystan today. There'll be more videos published every week, so don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell button if you want to be notified of the next video. See you in the next video. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers, Trystan.